Hello, Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce members. This is Drew Kamp, President and CEO of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce, here for our February 3rd weekly legislative update. As we wind down, I believe, the fourth week in this year's legislative session, there was a few big things that came out this week and a few big topics that were discussed. The biggest one was this issue to try to address the 1.8% issue. Miscalculation in residential rollback that has a big implication on local government budgets. Here in Council Bluffs, my understanding is it'd be right around $1 million that could potentially be adversely impacted by the mistake of the 1.8% overcalculation for the rollback. The Senate already moved the bill, and it's basically pushes back the deadline to April 1st to give them additional time to make sure that they can get their ducks in a row and everything they need to do to get their budget certified. And then it's now headed over to the House, where they'll debate it in the Ways and Means, and then on the House floor, likely pass it next week and get it to the governor's desk. I'm hearing by February 10th, is the date that they want that on the governor's desk by, so she can sign that and get that done. Also on the property tax side of thing, we did see our own Senator Dawson drop an assessment bill this week. Also included I will for the funding of the Outdoor Recreation and Natural Resource Trust Fund. And that's something that we've been looking forward to seeing. Haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but we do want to take a look at it and just see what we think about it. We do know that property tax obviously is going to be a major issue discussed this session. It's a very large issue, very complex issue. So that's something that regardless of how things go down the line this session, we know will be something that we'll need to take a couple sessions to fully address, just like income tax did. So we'll continue to watch that and any potential impacts on TIF. Another piece that also has some property tax TIF implications potentially is the Iowa Economic Development Authority has a draft out of their mega site program proposal. That's something for your $1 billion+ projects. Haven't had a chance to completely dive into the bill, but we are excited that it is out and we can kind of start having conversations about it and start getting it moved through some subcommittees and such to see what kind of changes are going to need to be made. The minimum is 250 acres. So think the site down south of us, as I keep saying, in Mills County, the mega site is something that would be most definitely eligible for it. It also needs to be certified. That's another piece that's been part of the conversation as well. So that's something we've also been watching and working with our friends over at IEDA. The government reorganization bill did drop. It's about 1,500 pages. And talking to our partners, it's much more easier to digest than we thought it might be. Obviously, there's a ton to it. It's going to take a lot with 1,500 pages to kind of get through, as Representative Segrist and our other representatives said at our legislative roundtable. It's going to be something they're talking about late into session, just for obvious reasons, because of how comprehensive it is and how big of an issue it is. So that's something we are looking forward to seeing how that goes and what implications that'll have to some of the key organizations, whether it be Department of Ed, Board of Regents, Iowa Economic Development Authority, Iowa Workforce Development, and others, just kind of looking at some of those implications and impacts. Another big piece that we're watching as well that we expect to move probably next week as well is tort reform, both trucker transportation trust tort reform, but also medical malpractice tort reform. We watch specifically medical malpractice tort reform very closely because it has a huge implication and impact on our ability to attract folks to our hospitals and healthcare providers here in Council Bluffs, with Nebraska having a pretty competitive tort reform and medical malpractice system in their state. So that's something we hope will get over the finish line. We also have seen some additional conversations come up around TIF. As is usual, it's usually a couple issues that really come up. It's the 540 levy, it's perpetual TIFs, and it's kind of the TIFing of whole communities and things like that. So the misuse of TIF with regards to the TIFing of whole communities. Right now, we're just kind of in the stage where we need to start having some good additional information that we can be sharing with legislators to make sure that they know how what the positive impacts are with TIF, plus how it makes us very competitive and more competitive than Nebraska, because we have a much more a better system than Nebraska does when it comes to tax increment financing. So we'll continue to watch some key bills drop here over the next few weeks and some big discussions. Obviously, next week, the biggest things are going to be this property tax assessment fix, plus the tort reform. Those are things we really that really seem to have a lot of momentum for next week. So that's something we'll anticipate having some news on next Friday for this legislative update next week. But otherwise, we're just kind of watching some of those big issues and some of these bills come out to start the conversations on them. And we look forward to being part of those as the session goes on. I do want to remind you, being that it's coming up in less than 2 weeks, we do have our legislative reception in Des Moines at the Embassy Suites coming up on Wednesday, February 15th. It is tied in with our Leadership Council Bluffs Day, where those 25 individuals will be headed to Des Moines as well. So we really look forward to and hope that you'll be able to join us in Des Moines at the Embassy Suites on the 15th of February for our legislative reception. And then we do have the fourth Friday of every month, our legislative roundtables. But in March, we are doing the fourth Saturday at 9 p.m. at Wilson Auditorium, opening it up to the public to kind of see how that works. And if that's a system we may want to look at going forward to make things most accessible to our members and community. So with that, I will end this week's legislative update. Please do come back next week. As I said, there's going to be some big issues debated next week, and we look forward to having updates on those and some of these other large ticket items that are going to really be going throughout the entire session as we see those introduced and how they're kind of received in subcommittees and committees. And that'll be something that'll be very exciting and interesting to come back to in the coming weeks. So with that, I will say thank you for your continued support of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce, specifically our public policy and advocacy program. And we look forward to bring you another update next week for our legislative update for the week of February 10th next week. So thanks again for all your support. Have a very nice rest of the day.